All right, now that I've shown you the basics in part one, we're going to go to part two and just spend a little more time in the adjustments. First thing you do is you go back to your Lightroom project that you've already made, and it'll open up right where you left off. The nice thing about that is I can go back to these images and make adjustments after the fact. I want to show you this. This horizon is out of level, so I can fix that pretty easily. I just clicked on the crop tool, go up here and just grab the corner of it with that, see how that arrow is doing, and line it up with the grid and say done. Now it's all nice and level. And I can go back and adjust the highlights and shadows if I want to see more of that beach detail. If I wanted to make it orangier, I could do that just by adjusting the color temperature. And by the way, let's go back over here. Well, I've already done that, so I was going to, you can go in here, individual colors, and mess with those. I'll show you that in a little bit. Go to your detail tab, open this up, and you're going to find noise reduction. I usually set this between 30 and 40, depending on how bright the scene was. You know, if it was taken at night and it's really grainy, you need more. If it's taken in a bright sun like that, then it doesn't really need a whole lot anyway. But that just generally reduces the noise down in the photo. Let's see if I can see any of that. If I take that out, okay. Now, it's so clean you can't really see any noise in there anyway. So I'm going to put that up to 31. And also, I wanted to go check this out. That's the basic stuff. I'm looking for camera lens corrections. There we go. I like to remove chromatic aberrations from the lens. Enable profile corrections, and you see here it has a whole list of them, and it recognized that I shot that with a 28 to 300 millimeter and put the appropriate correction on there. If I take it off, you can see the horizon is a little bit bowed, and that just straightens things out according to the lens profile. Now, moving on, if you go over here to this one, you'll see that I did have a little problem here with the lens shade. I could retouch that later, or I could crop it like that. Retouching would have to be done in Photoshop though. So we'll just crop that out a little bit. On this one, you can also double click on that, or you can click done. Now that that is set, I'm going to adjust the highlights down a little more. You see when you take the highlights down, you get more detail in the highlights. In the shadows, you can bring the shadows up and get more detail down here in the trees. However, you can make things a little too flat. You can bring the contrast back up, and you can get some interesting results that way. A nice blue sky. Sky is a little bit warm, so I would say let's set that noise reduction up to 30, and we could go down to this setting right here, the color. I can click on the blue, and then we have saturation, luminance, and hue. I could saturate that sky or desaturate it. without bothering the green. Everything that's blue will be affected. It's saturated enough, really. It just needs to be maybe not so green. So if I just edge that up with a little more blue, then it's a little more dramatic. And you can also play with the luminance if you want more drama. That looks pretty good. And now we're going to also, let's put these in there. Let's see if you can see any of the aberration. What you'll get is around areas like this, you may see a ghost of red and blue from the lens, and this will remove it pretty effectively. And I turned on the profile, which doesn't matter much because you're not going to really see the difference. But now that I'm at this level, I can put the highlights down, shadows up a little bit, contrast to compensate. Now I can copy all those settings. And you want to make sure all the settings that you're using are checked. Copy those. Then I can go over to this shot and I can paste them. And you see all the settings I did are there on that shot. Now if I want to further adjust it, I can. So I think this one needs a little more shadow detail. And let's go down to the sky in the blue section. You can do that to any of the specific colors that you have in there. Like too green in the sky, too purple, but maybe this is a matter of taste. And I can saturate it up though. Now it's really cyan. And just put a little more purple in it, and that's pretty good. You can bring that down more. Now it has more drama with the luminance. Now if I jump over here to say these orange colors, like in there, let's just see what they'll do. If I can change those. It's not picking up browns too well. Nope, not doing anything. So never mind that. We'll just stick with the blue. And we can go to the greens and jazz those up. Or change them to a different hue if they needed corrected. Sometimes if the foliage was not very intense at that time of year, you can add a little saturation and get them more lively looking. Okay, so now that I'm here, I can, remember I copied this into the copy, so now I can paste it still. Now that's darkening up the shadows, and I want to lighten them up more. Too much contrast, maybe bring the highlights down. And that's pretty good. You can go further still, take the whites and the blacks up, and compensate with the contrast. And add a little saturation if need be. That kind of brings up the blue water. Maybe a little too much in the red. And let's try. Bringing that down a little bit. I could just adjust the color balance. Yeah, just a tad. Make it a little bit bluer. The faces are a little bit saturated though. And so I can, no, I don't want to mess with the vibrance. Saturation is just up too much. Yeah, so I'm going to leave that alone. But I'm going to go back to the greens where the water is. And we can saturate that up without bothering anything. Now there's a tool down here under upright. This will allow you to level. You see it leveled up the horizon real nice with just one click. Sometimes it doesn't work, and you have to go to that method with the cropping tool. Next shot, let me just paste in those figures we did earlier. And you see the horizon is crooked for one thing. Let's see if this will level us up. Oh, not today. So I'm going to turn that off. And I'll go to crop. And I'm going to so in this mode, you get this leveled up properly. And what you'll see here is I didn't get it centered up quite right. Since I'm over here in the picture, I didn't allow enough room, so I'm going to fix that and just crop that down. And you can see I can crop it any direction I want. If you hold the shift key down, it will keep its proportion while you're moving that. So I'm going to say done. This needs some highlights. You see the back there in the background, bring in those highlights, the shadows, and it's got enough contrast, maybe a little too much exposure. There we go. Gonna call that done. And we can, this is your clarity button. Sometimes when you're dealing with faces, you might want to soften them as opposed to sharpening them. If you get like real sharp, it's just too harsh. But if you put in anywhere from 7 to 20, probably about 10 on this one. And that's pretty good. You'll see here, if I take the clarity off, I bet it gets too harsh. And you get really soft. But just putting in, let's do 11. So that'll soften it up just a little bit. And typically, if it's a close-up, you can go up to about 20, like a portrait, for instance. And moving on down the line, this shot could use a little more highlights. We can put some shadows in it, contrast it a little bit. It's looking pretty good. Now let's go down here to those other tools. Oh, forgot to do the noise reduction. Put that on there. And that straightens out all that stuff. Just to check, looks like that horizon is pretty straight to start with. Now we go down here to the color mode, and by the way, you've got black and white. If you wanted to change it to black and white, you can do some interesting things. For instance, to make that sky go nice and black in some cases. And make the yellows really white. Anyway, that's for making black and white photos. And that's to simulate as if you were shooting it with, for instance, a red filter, or a yellow filter, orange filter. But I'm going to stick with color in this case. So I want to go to the orange zone, and I'm going to saturate it up a little bit, see? And if I wanted to make it more purple or more yellow, I could do that. The question is whether you want to or not. What's realistic? I'm going to go with that. That's a nice color there. Now let's jump over here to the blues. And let's saturate up that sky just a little bit. And there we go. So kind of push the color a little bit in the sky and the clouds. So it's got a nice hook. So that's kind of most everything you need to do in Lightroom. There are further things you can do. For instance, if I did want to change that color temperature, that's at 4,300 degrees Kelvin. And there's way blue, and that's way orange. I'm going to hit Command Z, and it just jumps right back where it was. Now, see, wanted to mention this little tool here. This changes what you do. You take this and go over your area, and if you click on it, it will change the color balance to make that neutral where you've got the dropper. So if I do that, now that cloud is neutral white. Changes the whole photo to blue. If I wanted to go down and change the blue, for instance, here, everything's now too orange because it's neutralizing the blue. So I'm going to choose that shot, 4,300 degrees where it started. And now let's say I want to export all these out. Let's just export that one. Export. It's already chosen to that folder. Now it's saying you've already got one of those in there. What do you want to do? I can use unique names and I'll have two of them, or I can overwrite and update it with the latest settings. And when it's done, it'll let me know. Okay, that's done. Let's say you wanted to do this one. By the way, I'll just show you how that works again with the color balance. This is pretty much white, so if I click on that, it pretty much stays white. This has a little blue in it, so if I click there, it's going to warm everything up and make this neutral white. Well, I can go over here to this one and bring it back, just for your information. So I can take this one and say this one and this one, do an update, export. It's already chosen. It's going to say you got 3 of those are already there. What do you want to do here? Skip them, use unique names, or overwrite them. I'm going to overwrite them. And you will see here, it's going to one at a time go through each one. Now it's working on this one, and now it's working on the sunset, the third one. When it gets done, it will finish up, and this process is automated. So the nice thing about it, you do all your adjustments and you don't have to wait on the computer. So that's pretty much it. There are more things involved in Lightroom, but there's some tools here that you can use, like Red Eye tool, and this works, but it's easier. This is a clone tool, and it's easier to use in Photoshop by far. And a couple other tools, I don't even use these. So There's a lot to it, but that's pretty much the basics.